I put down my weapon, look around at my companions and feel relief. Thinking, finally, another day down. Then I think of tomorrow and the tremors are back. Will I see the same faces when I wake? Will I even be around to see them?
Easy with the mark, I suppose. You know when it's coming.
Can you really speak for them though? For someone nearing the end? Because I couldn't tell you.
Maybe to you we were like birds.
Why is it that you gave your life for mine?
I can't help but wonder. Would I have been able to save you?
No one can truly judge him for the things he did. You're not allowed to say it's been for nothing. You've enriched my life, Noah. You know, I don't want this to be it. If I were given the chance, if this road I've walked were to keep on going, I'd like to spend that time with my Noah.
One of the truest forms of terror is lack of autonomy, a loss of control when it comes to your fate, an inability to do anything to combat a supreme opponent. As we all long for control in our lives and of the situations that dictate those lives, the very idea that our future rests in the hands of someone else who couldn't care less is horrifying. When our sense of self-sovereignty is disrupted by another, what is our immediate instinct? Amusement, friendliness, intrigue perhaps? Well, it's none of those. The master and slave dialectic rests at the fabric of Ionios, not just Hegel's phenomenology of spirit. As our instinct, however vain it might sound, is fear, being threatened by the other. Two consciousnesses in a desire to negate the other, to appease that feeling of weakness, engage in a battle to the death. And at the end, one of them asks for mercy, begging for their life. The master is now a slave, as you can't ever kill them, you see. The soldiers of Ionios all disappear one day. The Moebius can't sustain themselves, unable to gorge on their flames. The master would die. Ironically, the master depends on the slaves for his existence, putting them to work. An artificial distinction between Agni and Kevesi, colonies, ranks, and officers. The stage is set. The self another, an enemy to kill. Now the slave's job is to fight, to maximize the flame on the clock for the master's benefit. But in the process, Hegel notes that something weird happens while swinging the blade and pulling the trigger on one another, they produce something unexpected, something more sublime than the blood and the screams of their victims. Something that Noah, a Kevesi officer, is intimately familiar with, the blue motes rising to the sky. The feelings and memories of the fallen ones are sent off. The remnants of unfulfilled wishes and desires slowly leave the corporeal flesh, with the officer's melody in the background, returning to the queen's embrace. There's something, I don't know, poetic about it. Something sexy. Even if the red motes, the life energy of a soldier, is long gone, the blue motes still rise, alluding to how by battling to the death, these soldiers all contributed something to this world that not even Moebius or the flame clocks can ever take away. The slaves didn't just fight for the masters, you see. The Moebius Y desire to extinguish their will, feeling threatened by even this innocent portrait of a family. They didn't want the colonies to be aware of it, as the masters know how dangerous it can be for the slaves to see that glimmer of light, to be conscious of how a different life is possible for them. Maybe even a better one. Having a family is more than just making babies, after all. It is loving someone else more than yourself. It is more than just physical attractions. It's more than spending time in the same room with someone else who gets along with you. In fact, if the stars align, if you're lucky, a family can be transformative. While you shouldn't be relying too much on another person for your happiness, imagine having someone else by your side who understands you and challenges you simultaneously. Someone you can rely on through thick and thin. Your girlfriend today being your wife tomorrow. And with time, a new life is born. A tiny human. Acts like you. Speaks like you. Eventually even looks like you. While this idea of giving birth to new life is suppressed for the soldiers of Ionios. Understandably, as their lives are not recorded in origin, they will lead lives outside of Moebius' rules, which would be unacceptable. But the city people are free from such brainwashing. They've seen through the ruse that this painting points to. And as Jin said in All Rest, humanity has culture. A society that can grow irrespective of the individual's limited lifespan. The future doesn't stagnate thanks to this ever-evolving collective unconscious. The memories, history, our identity as humans rest in the past, and when that is reset constantly, incessantly, whether by being reborn in the cradles or returning to your core crystal, it is like a car that spins its wheels in the mud. You can't evolve. The blades in All Rest similarly struggle to get the ball rolling precisely due to Malthus and his desire for control. Well, sounds to me like someone else we know in Ionios.
You are no slave. Be free now. Blades are granted phenomenal power from our Creator on high, yet we are doomed to never remember. Why?
What?
The accumulation of memories is what allows mankind, no, all life to grow, change, evolve, but blades are fleeting. When we return to our cores, our memories are lost, our growth snatched away forever.
People aren't so different.
Man's life too has an end, yes. However, though each individual life is fleeting, you pass on your memories, allowing you to grow as a species, as a culture. Why does Indal control all the core crystals? By controlling the moment of every blade's birth, they enslave our entire kind. How is that fair? We have no culture because Indal decrees it. Because that's what your kind do. Why are you the masters and we the slaves? It is we who embody the very nature of this world.
The slaves need to stay in the dark for the masters to continue being recognized as such. Since if the slaves become too conscious, they start asking questions, destabilizing Zet's fetters over this world. Slowly, the power they think they're entitled to would fall away. But the funny thing is that the master cannot strain the leashes to counter, because too much oppression can similarly backfire. To do their work effectively, the slaves need a sense of security, safety, belongingness even, trust in the system, as they say. To feel a sense of control in their lives, they need habits and a sense of predictability within the chaos. To take refuge in it. They take a bath with their friends after a hard day's work, engage in philosophy, poetry, work the fields, fall in love. In secret if they have to, send the voices of the dead to mourn the loss and process feelings of guilt, while not knowing where exactly, well, they're going somewhere. And that is, as the philosopher Friedrich Hegel argues, is the power of the slave, the human spirit, that would ultimately be the master's downfall.
But how do you live without hope? Can't be a coincidence. Talking about avoiding casualties, you know that includes you too, Ethel, don't you? Agnew troops. That's what's hitting us! In terms of sheer power, they're the ones with the advantage. We should avoid a direct confrontation.
To end this. He's toyed with our lives as he pleases for long enough. I did try my best. I couldn't afford to fail. Could it have been something that Moebius did?
For Hegel, it is actually the slave who comes out on top in the long run, in that initial life and death struggle which sets the terms going forward. The I experiences what Hegel calls the fear of death and submits to the other. This I decides he loves life, not terribly unlike Nietzsche's Amor Fati, and concedes the fight. And this initial submission, the slave consciousness, now serves the other's will and works for him. But it is through this very work that eventually he will come to surpass his master. Hegel reasons. On a basic level, this is so because it is the slave who masters objective reality or nature. The slave takes the plants and animals and transforms them through work into meals. The slave transforms with his hands a tree into a table. The slave is most alive. The master, on the other hand, is parasitic, decadent, dependent, stagnant even. Without the slave's recognition, he's not even a master. Without the slave's work, he cannot prosper. He cannot exist. As you know, Zeon, the commander of Colony 9, needs to grow these healthy crops and veggies, but the nature itself resists. Bacteria, viruses, the toxic elements to fend off predators, the desire to survive is evident even in the microcosm, the will to live, as Moebius likes to say. So, naturally, Juniper steps in, the commander of Colony Tau, precisely knows how to survive in a pinch, as their chronically low flame clock, dwindling each day, hardened and pushed them to the brink throughout the years. Farming and growing crops were part and parcel of their lives now. You see, these crops, you pick them as soon as they wilt, even after nurturing to get a better yield. They're not actually dying, but rather making way for new life, much like us.
じゃん、後でこうするべきだったっていうことは簡単だ。でも結果なんて誰にもわからないよ。わからなくても選択の時は必ず来るしなきゃいけない。100人の仲間の命と壁の中の人類の命。団長は選んだんだ。100人の仲間の命を切り捨てることを選んだ。何かを変えることのできる人間がいるとすれば、その人はきっと大事なものを捨てることができる人だ。化け物をもしのぐ必要に迫られたのなら、人間性をも捨て去ることができる人のことだ。何も捨てることができない人には何も変えることはできないだろう。
As all life is built upon some sort of sacrifice. Both Zeon and Juniper should know this, ever since being free from their own flame clocks. Now, the sense of security that the colony rewards, the food and the ammunition once provided is no longer. Like a sheep without its shepherd, you need to fight in order to live still. Even more so than before. It is true that this cruel world Moebius constructed is artificial. Strife and struggle is actually inherent in existence. There is no escape. Even without a flame clock, you still have to struggle, and without paying that price, whatever it may be, the slave can never truly realize its potential. Without sacrifice, there can never be change. Sacrifice can be easily observable and quantifiable in some cases, but it doesn't have to be. See, whenever we look at the world, we make certain judgments as shortcuts to make our chaotic lives easier. Things like knowing who to trust, what to do, when to do. We most often need to make snap judgments, bypassing the prefrontal cortex. Better safe than sorry. But in these cases, we are tunnel-visioned, prejudiced, unwilling to change our perspectives, not realizing how we might need to sacrifice our safe and habitual ways of looking at the world to make room for more risks and vulnerability. Something that Kite is certainly struggling with.
Are those my imitators?
Oh yeah, they do look similar. They're not, right?
No, they're toxic. I knew it.
This is one of Agnes's...
Kite?
It's true. When considering root vegetables, poisonous tubers are relatively common. However, these spongy spuds are... Huh?
It's sweet. Already more than edible.
You mean it's safe? Really?
Yes.
I think I'd bake him first myself.
Silence, Lance.
These spuds, they're the pride and joy of our colony. I'm so glad you like them. Really.
I don't... Where do you find this trust? These were our enemies.
Yes, but not now.
I get that. I know that. But still, if only you weren't Agnian.
When you pull out the earthworm wood to put in the soil, its roots wriggle around like it's alive. Personally, it gives me the creeps.
Stop trying to worm your way out of this.
Right, that's true. I'm sorry. After all, the earthworm wood improves the soil's drainage. And when Kite objects to their futile efforts, Zeon gives him a warm but slightly distant response. The commander and lieutenant shtick, as you know, not realizing that Zeon is making Kite feel unappreciated by his tone, issuing him orders instead of talking to him on an equal footing. And the best way to do that is, first of all, admitting to your shortcomings, making it clear that even if you are their commander, you make mistakes like everyone else. It cuts you down to size in the eyes of the others, makes you much less intimidating and more relatable.
Okay, so, what are we planting?
Spongy spuds. Juniper's already told us how to grow them.
Oh, here we go again.
Don't grumble. That potato was truly delicious.
Fine. Whatever. Just give me the spuds. What?
Of course. We still need potatoes to plant.
You didn't get them ready?
We were so focused on looking for earthworm wood.
It happens.
This isn't like you, Commander. Did you eat something funky?
Nobody's perfect. Even the most scrupulous perfectionist is liable to err, on occasion.
All right, just hurry up and get some.
But even after planting the seeds, tilling the soil, the water is not draining properly, or maybe there is too much water, as IGN likes to say. And Fox admits to it, how he gave them extra water from time to time to prevent the potato seeds from drying out. And at this moment, believe it or not, Kite relates to that mistake. As the second best, he's actually used to making mistakes under Zeon's supervision, annoyed even to not live up to his own standards, gets politely yelled at often, as the saying goes. So when Fox admits to watering the seeds too much, he is understanding and encouraging, very good at complimenting someone else's weaknesses, something that Zeon is definitely not very good at.
So, why isn't anything budding?
The seed potatoes are rotting. Perhaps we gave them too much water.
Oh no.
Does the soil not drain properly? Or was it something else?
It's my fault. I was giving them extra water from time to time, because I didn't want them drying out.
Fox.
I thought I was being careful. Never considered that I might be overdoing it.
Well, we'll just have to try this again. Let's wait for the next rainy spell.
Sorry, guys.
Don't blame it on yourself.
Yeah, but if I hadn't done this, we wouldn't have to...
Oh, if only! What's done is done, man. You can't change the past. So let's just recoup our losses and do even better next time round.
Huh.
That's a good attitude, Kite. I like it.
I'm good either way, to be honest.
Huh. Classic Eastman.
Guess I'll stick it out for a while longer. Thanks, Kite.
Before the next rain, the fertilizers are set for a healthier crop, only for the black rot disease to create lesions at the roots, causing rapid decay, spreads very easily too. Now we need to pull out all the bad crops to save the rest. This is another sacrifice for the greater good. We came full circle once again.
That looks to be all of them.
We'll have to monitor them for a short while. Take note of the state of the stems, not just the color of the leaves.
We should fix up the soil too, right?
Think so. It's supposed to be bad if the underground bits are exposed to light.
Might as well pull up the weeds while we're at it too, huh?
Don't pull the potatoes themselves out.
Mate, I can tell the difference.
And then we hope for rain.
What's wrong?
Oh, I was just thinking how times change. It wasn't so long ago that my sole thoughts were about keeping the flame clock topped up. Now here I am, worrying about soil and potatoes, looking up at the sky. I could never have imagined myself in such a position.
True. Who'd have thought you'd chomp on a raw potato or admit to lacking a spine?
Please, don't remind me. I feel flushed just thinking about it.
But I think we've grown a lot closer as a result. I feel like I know you better. Sometimes you don't really get to know someone until you've clashed first and then sorted out your differences.
You don't beat around the bush, do you?
Anyway, I think we've done what we can here. Let's report back into Juniper.
And when these monsters, out of nowhere, start attacking and mess up the soil, all of their efforts seem to be in vain. Kite immediately starts blaming himself for not being able to fend off the predators, only for Juniper to save the day, reminding them that the spongy spuds are a special kind of seed that take storage within the soil itself, keeping themselves not only fresh, but also safe.
Sorry, I couldn't stop them.
It's not your fault, Kite.
Besides, you were the first to come running here. Don't feel bad. You were tending the fields, weren't you? Trying to keep them safe. The whole time.
I couldn't just sit back. But there was hardly any point.
You shouldn't put yourself down.
You? What are you?
If I could just...
I'll help you. And pull! Guess I don't know my own strength.
Thank you very much.
Are those?
I'm afraid I failed to mention something. Spongy spuds are quite special. They actually use the field itself as a means of storage.
That's why you recommended growing them. Astounding.
Sorry I doubted you. The reason I didn't trust you before, it wasn't because you were Agnian. No, it's because I was weak. Now, I don't expect you to forgive me or anything like that. But I know I caused hurt. I'm so sorry.
Now come on, raise your head. You refuse to give in. You struggle to change things for the better. The way I see it, that's not weakness. Not from what I hear, anyway.
You don't... No, you don't even know me.
Making a change, Kite. It takes guts. You're a good man. We didn't admit it. But then again, neither did you.
You know what? No one's ever told me that.
I'm sorry about that. I think from now on, I'll make an effort to remind you. Kite, you're an asset to us all.
It would be unfortunate to view the Blue Motes rising to just represent the individual humanity within us. We need to also see that as the shared collective which spans over generations holding the torch. After all, both Skumagami and Animism rest at the fabric of Japanese culture, this idea that the inanimate objects have souls, wills of their own, just like you and I, a distinct spiritual essence in trees, plants, rocks, you name it. We are of flesh and blood, die on the battlefield, and that will be the end of it. The desire to leave our mark on the world, to make a difference, is undeniable. Stepping on the battlefield each day is accepting that gamble. You may not get that chance tomorrow. You are playing with fire. In that case, how can we ensure that our legacy, our mark, can last beyond our fragile bodies and minds? What if that was possible through an inanimate object? Maybe our hopes and dreams can be immortalized for generations to come, infused into objects of sentimental value and shared between generations through stories. A connection that links one another, a cultural and collective effort at protecting history, insight and knowledge. Because when Nimue gifted her watch to Taion, she did just that. Her past with Izzard was all inside there, the hopes and dreams, an expedition to the Cadencia frontier, Kavesi troops attacking at night. It was a hopeless battle. Almost at the brink of death, a kind soul carried Izzard to this prosperous land filled with Sophronias. A community hidden from the outside world, free from the burden of fighting and flame clocks. The castle that was once there housed these cradles they were all born from. And when Izzard, a relative stranger, wanted to be embraced by this culture, he met with resistance, given the cold shoulder by the natives who saw him as a threat to their ways of life, shunned him for being one of them. But Nimue knew better than that. She knew that pain and suffering outside will not disappear just because I've closed my eyes, living in my cookie-cutter peaceful village away from all the drama and violence. Sounds nice? Surely, but what about the soldiers outside who aren't that lucky? Nimue needed to see the world with Izzard to open her eyes, to see if she can do anything about it, about the world's pain, not just the people of her colony and her close circle of friends. And to that end, she used this lens to make sure her iris was hidden. This way, no one would know how she was free from the flame clock's bondage, effectively being one of them, as they say. Playing a gamble with her life only for Taion, her star pupil, to lose that gamble, taking the wrong turn, making the wrong decision. It happens to the best of us. The results are never guaranteed after all, even if you put your best foot forward. And while trying to forgive himself, when the going gets tough for Taion, when he misses his mentor, it is Nimue's clock that keeps him going, his compass showing the way. Pointing towards this hidden village of Sophronias, under threat of exposure due to this Veronis suddenly activating out of nowhere after all these years. Bit of a bad luck, I guess, since Moebius can now pinpoint their location, getting warmer only for Ouroboros to lend him a hand. It must be hard for Taion to see Nimue right now, knowing how his own decision led to her demise in a previous lifetime. It was scary. What if it happens again? If she gets close to him? But it's not up to him, you see. It wasn't random that Nimue helped Izzard that day, or wanted to see the world back then. She was an Ouroboros at heart. Sure, the world is cruel, but if there are people like Taion out there in that world, it can't be that bad.
You all came from outside, didn't you?
Yes.
What's it like out there? This place is all we know. We're not allowed to leave. It's forbidden, you see.
Oh. Honestly, it's not all that wonderful.
A world of endless war. People taking each other's lives away.
Yes. It's a pitiful place.
Still, even so, I want to go. I need to see it. A world wide open.
You'd have to fight, too.
But you're not like that, are you? It's a sad world, but you're trying to change it. Am I wrong?
Well,
If there are people like you in that world, well then, I'm sure it's wonderful. And that is what I want to see.
The commander, however, disagrees. If the war outside reaches their land, she will accept their fate in this passive resignation. They rode the wave as much as possible after all. Now it was time to pay their due, their punishment, for living outside the system. From what I can tell, Nimue is just the same as before. But is it really? Is personality more nature or nurture? I think it's a bit of both. You can never be exactly the same between reincarnations, since the experiences, the people you meet, the circumstances that you find yourself in are all different. But there are also primal inclinations, the stuff you're drawn to naturally, your level of introversion or extroversion that are more genetic and comes from within. Which is why Uni is making a point that regardless of what Nimue decides this time around, she will be there for Taion.
Is this place a crop-growing colony? You barely ever see any of these in Keves.
Seems like a nice way to live. It's warm. They live in comfort.
Yeah. How could they deserve punishment?
What's this?
I think this was from another me. Remember the battlefield at Cana? I found it there.
Back there?
Is Nimue different from before?
No, she hasn't changed. Same old Nimue.
Well, maybe it's the same with me then. Wait, hang on. Do you reckon the past me was more like her?
In what way?
Elegant, graceful, refined?
No way. You'll be the same no matter how many times you're reborn. Oh no, sorry. I didn't... What I wanted to say was...
I don't suppose we could change. But you know, some things are different sometimes.
Huh.
Because this time round, we're Ouroboros. Things will be different. We're with you, Taion.
Uni? I didn't expect encouragement from you.
Well, you do make a good cuppa.
Sitting here pretending none of that is happening? I understand our chief's feelings. It's thanks to her that we've lived in peace this long. But there's a war going on in the outside world. There are many who don't want to see it, or wish it wasn't happening to them. Yet, you've come to us following your own path. And that is real. It's how the world really is.
Nimue.
Please.
All right. I'll allow you to watch us while we're fighting. But under one condition.
That is?
When we first came here, it was like an awakening. There are still beautiful places like this in the world. We have to keep this place safe. That's what we're fighting for.
After all, this place is like an oasis in a desert, untainted by the dirt outside. While it's admirable for Nimue to want to see the world like before, let me propose that sometimes we really should play to our strengths in life. After all, we've all seen how vulnerable the Sophronis are now. The Moebius are on their trail. The commander, as we've seen, was absolutely useless. Someone needed to protect this place going forward. As the Ouroboros is fighting outside, maybe she needed to be inside. Maybe Nimue's fight was never out there to begin with.
Hey, that watch.
Our lifetimes run for 10 years only. But this pocket watch has already lived for longer than that, by being passed from Nimue's hands to mine. What Guernica said to us on that battlefield. I don't know what you made of it exactly, but frankly, to me, it was a load of nonsense. Not even enough to push us together. But that's changed. If Nimue's life is represented by her dreams, then in remembering those, I carry her life with me. Perhaps now, I can give a purpose to my life. She'd live on if I were to pass her dreams on to others, right?
Heavy.
Also, I've done some thinking. If I had just, say, 10 more years, no, even 5, with just a bit of borrowed time, how many more memories could I fit inside this little pocket watch?
And that's why you're here now?
Do you spend every day battling like this?
Gladly, yes.
Huh?
We need the people of your colony to protect this place. It's true, there are times when our fight takes a toll on us, but we carry on that fight because we have a mission.
A mission?
The foe we fought today, Moebius, who made this world the way it is, we have to take it back from them. We have to make a new world. One without fighting, where you won't have to hide away in fear.
Taion.
But sometimes we do need rest, to forget fighting for a time. This place could be our refuge.
Thinking about it, maybe this is the true purpose of Offseeing, both on the individual level with our hopes and the inanimate objects that carry our hopes through the generations. The slaves are empowering themselves despite their pitifully short lives, just as Hegel says. All that Noah is doing as an officer is just making it explicit. Really.
That you can't just look at one aspect of the whole. It's such a basic fact. So why haven't we realized it before? We now know his power is vast. Her 10 years is a mere glimpse. We now know the importance of true choice.
In the natural world, some plants contain toxic elements, usually to fend off predators. It must have been frustrating.
Yes. For the whole colony. I don't mind the toil myself. Such was my decision. But as for my friends, I'd rather they simply enjoy the result.
I understand. I know that feeling.
I'll make an effort to remind you. Kite, you're an asset to us all.
I wanted to know the meaning behind the smile. There shouldn't be any life in those bodies. But the Motes still rose. I know they were only hollow vessels, but ultimately, we chose to fight and kill them. And nothing can change that fact. Even if there's no one to actually see off, we have to atone for that.
It gives a sense of security. Lets you think your dead friends are looking out for you from above, alleviating feelings of guilt and of loss. That's how I understand it.
Hegel argues that the slaves appear servile since the masters are giving them orders. But as we have explored, they come to have an independent relationship to this world and each other. The master gets to enjoy the things that the servant has cooked, gorging on their flames. But by virtue of being mediated by the slaves, the master's affirmation ultimately is dependent on the servant. Initially, it was the slave that was dependent on the master, begging for his life, the embryonic phase, that first step. But shortly after, now the master is the one dependent on the slaves, treating them like an instrument, a means to an end, dismissing their wills and freedom. See, what the master, the Moebius, wanted from the world, from that initial life and death struggle referring to the collision of the planets, was to be recognized as a sovereign consciousness. But you see, this requires another subject, another consciousness. In treating the slave as a thing, Moebius actually undermines the potential for recognition, you see. You can't be recognized by a thing or an instrument. You need to give the other consciousness, the other subject, the same level of respect and authority that you give to yourself, so that the servant's recognition of your existence is meaningful to begin with. As Moebius, you need the soldiers for both sustenance and recognition, but you cannot have your cake and eat it too. So the master's aims are doomed to be thwarted from the get-go. The strength, power, the arrogance that Moebius puts forth is nothing but a house of cards.
Now then, the curtain rises. I have always known just how gutless you creatures are. Come now, entertain me. You defy me. I will face you as many times as you want. Bring your hands together. Greet them with applause.
Yes, for new players, ascend the stage. You have not witnessed the half of Moebius's power. Ouroboros. You who upset the balance. I can hardly believe that your strength has grown thus. Very good. The first step in your so-called revolution. I see. You would grow strong enough to withstand adversity. Well then, time for the next act. The struggle is all that you are permitted. Futility. Little fishes, crowd me not. Yet you rise. I shall observe carefully what you would term your strength.